You're watching the Matt to Matt Show, where we talk about... Excuse me.
Exactly 15 seconds, we'll be on the air.
Where we talk about everything that's important to you. From science and technology to pop culture and social commentary. Featuring your hosts Right Matt, Left Matt, and the disembodied voice of Joe. This is where the conversation begins. Now let's have a chat. Matt to Matt. And we're live. Welcome back to another post-season episode of the Matt to Matt podcast. I am your host, Right Matt. Joining me, as always, is the disembodied voice of Joe.
Good evening.
We're happy you're joining us today. If it's your first time being here, go ahead and type in that chat. It does appear on screen. You will always be part of the show and part of the conversation. Tonight we will be discussing the topic of conversation this week. We will not be talking about gun control. We will be talking about how to talk to people you strongly disagree with without sounding like a complete idiot.
Can they hear us? They can hear us, right?
They should be able to. I'm getting green lights.
Sweet.
I might be speaking a little subdued, my dude. But they should
That's
be able
okay.
to hear us. Hold on. A little subdued. Hey.
Yeah, your voice is
Wow.
sounding pretty smooth.
Thank you. The delay on that's like 3 seconds.
3 seconds.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like 10. What the heck?
Oh. Well, that's good, right?
It is very good. It is very good. All right. It's saying we're the only two watching right now. So I'm just going to reiterate. We will be discussing
Hey, any more?
difficult discussions. So I'm going to fire this out on Twitter to get our twits on the stream. There we go. Tweet. How to talk to idiots. All right. Perfect. Hello, Amor. Thank you for joining us tonight. So before we go ahead and get started, a couple of things we're going to be doing. We do have... I was reiterating. Like I said, we will be discussing how to discuss difficult topics. I don't know if you've noticed, but recently, conversation on all social media has been, dare I say, toxic. And I don't use that word lightly, but what do you think of when you think of the word toxic? What does that mean?
In reference to Pokemon or real life?
In reference to real life. The definition of the word toxic when it's not related to conversation.
Something that poisons you and could possibly kill you if you don't treat it soon.
Yeah. It always makes me think of something that like is contagious and spreads, like poison gas, as opposed to like don't bite that snake, it's poisonous, and don't let it bite you, it's venomous.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference.
You got that right. You got
Yeah.
that right. I'm impressed.
The bar is low. The difference, it's like, oh, careful, don't touch that fruit. It will make you sick. It seems like a lot of discourse has become quite toxic, specifically this last week. I'm sure I'm not alone.
Don't eat those Tide Pods or else other
Don't eat
kids will
those
do it.
Tide Pods. What the heck? Ow. Something loud hurt my ear earlier, and it's still ringing. All right.
It must have been before I plugged in because I didn't hear it.
From last week. Oh, it was earlier before that. Last week I said we would have, we would be announcing
A surprise.
a surprise. Well, it's an announcement, which is typically a surprise. we will be. You see, my plan was during the intro, not the intro, but before the intro, to have music playing, just because.
Great mood setting.
For those of you who don't know,
You're a musician.
I actually started on YouTube as a musician. Let me just keep that going because it hurts my brain to just stop. My old channel, Music Matthew Wood, which I changed to something else and I don't remember now. I used to do music and skits on there.
Not the Frenia kind.
No. Well, some of them, yes. Well, some of them I was literally talking to myself. I don't know if you remember those old YouTube
Yeah,
videos that were
I
super
remember them.
popular. Like,
I
what was the name of
remember.
that lady? That girl from, like, she was Filipino, I think.
Oh,
What was that? It
Christine
was like-
Gambito, Happy Slip.
Happy Slip. Yes. Happy Slip. Where she'd do skits where she'd be talking to herself, being the different characters from her
Yeah,
family.
Played all the different characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did that.
So starting in March, not May, starting in March, I'm going to be doing live streams where I play music,
So-
among other things. But that's what I'm going to be starting with. So during the week,
So this is kind of like a in-between
It's-
Thursdays thing.
yes, in between Thursdays thing, I'm going to be posting live streams on my old channel. I've linked it in the description, and it's going to be. It's not going to be here. I'd considered it, but my hand's off camera with things behind me in a spot I usually have a conversation, just playing.
That's kind of nice to have that. Yeah, just have a little bit to
Yeah. So
control the mood.
a little mood control with these guys in the back. I won't be just playing random lines on the piano for 15 minutes.
No?
No, I'm going to be doing. I'm actually kind of excited about this. I've got a couple things
Oh,
go-
you mean
going
for
already.
the for the
Not
for the,
tonight.
Yeah.
Also,
the
not for the
tonight.
other thing. So, I have a couple mini sets. I'm gonna be doing mini sets. I'm gonna be doing related songs, like three or four songs that are related about a specific topic or by a specific artist. So that'll be fun. That's gonna be coming in maybe a week. So I'll be posting like updates and a schedule and things like that when I'll be doing it. It'll most likely be later at night, but it'll be. The reason for it being live streams is two reasons. I like it. I like live stream. It's a lot of fun. And secondly, it's a lot easier because you don't have to edit and then post and then like go back over the thing. Oh, I want to re-record that. It sucked. I missed that note. So that's going to be, you're going to be like one of those professional storytellers. I missed something.
No, just with your music and your
Oh.
talking.
Okay. Yeah. So that's gonna be easy to get content out. My problem with the channel, the reason I had to stop is because I had a job that took a lot more of my time, and I was unable to get content out in a timely manner because it took like 8 hours to do a video, and I didn't have 8 hours in a week, let alone 8 hours in a day. So that's good. That'll be fun. Like I said,
Are you keeping that there for this?
no.
No. I mean, you
No, I
you just have it there like in case you can't find the outro file. Or,
Dun dun
you know, just
dun.
kind of improvise.
Dun dun dun. In case we say something interesting or important.
Yeah. Or if someone says something you don't like, you can be like, play the
Here's my chord of distress.
villain music.
Nope. Where is it? That's my tension chord.
Nice.
That's when Wallace opens the closet and there's the chicken.
Yes.
Or the penguin dressed as a chicken holding a gun. All right. Enough about that. Moving on. Let me refresh this page. Make sure we are looking at this right. Okay, cool. So Joe and I were talking before the show. We were having a conversation, having a discussion about conversations and discussions. And I spent this last week unplugging things, getting strange noises. I spent this last week. I had a moratorium on social media. I have said 0 things at all in any capacity anywhere about the Florida shooting and gun control and policies. Although every single person on my Facebook page has been talking nonstop about that in extremely toxic terms. So I would log onto Facebook just out of habit. Hey, I have an alert. Somebody's birthday. And I'd scroll like 3 scrolls and be like, no, that's wrong. No, that's... I gotta log off. And I'd log off. Because when I get into conversations with people who are like, in my educated experience, are saying things that are factually incorrect. It's one thing to have an opinion. This would do this. This might help that. And, well, studies have shown. I mean, people who state things that just are technically not true, it's very difficult to just let it go.
Or share pictures filled with facts that are not technically
Yes.
not true.
Yes, or share pictures that are just,
Those
hey,
worse.
here's a list of things that are wholly inaccurate, because it feels true. It
By the way,
feels true.
I have word of the day. Since
Good.
you used that fancy word,
Toxic.
moratorium. No.
Oh. Okay, great. Yeah, so that's been my week. We'll get to that right now. Since that's been my week, I wanted to have, rather than just talk about how everybody's wrong, which it would be very cathartic. It's tempting and it would be cathartic to just go through my Facebook and compile all the things that people say that are wrong and, in my opinion, stupid, and then just debunk all of them and yell and scream about how everyone's stupid. But that's all I see on Facebook, and no one's changing their mind. So we're going to talk about how to be more effective. Specifically, Joe wrote this post on his Facebook that we're going to share about like, hey, I've observed some things. Tell me if I'm characterizing this correctly. I've observed some things about the way these conversations go, and here's some pointers on how they can be more effective, and you can sound less like an idiot. Is that generally?
That's, I mean, from a perspective. But yeah.
That's
yeah,
how I would say that, yeah.
I would like to move beyond the same factually incorrect things that get shared every time there's an incident
So
like this.
basically like effective conversation. Like how to actually...
More effective instead of everyone just sharing their little piece of thing that they found that's not actually helping. These puzzles don't fit together. It's puzzle pieces.
So we have linked that note. It's very good. I read it. I would highly recommend it. I've linked that as well as my old channel, by the way. I linked it in the description. So go ahead and check out that channel when we're done, and we'll be discussing some points from Joe's thing later. But first, we have to do the word of the day.
Wait, that's your old music channel? The one that you have
Yeah, I shared.
have those. Oh.
Have what?
No, I thought you said you didn't know the name or you couldn't find it or something. I can't remember what.
I changed the name.
changed the name.
Technically, it's like Music Matthew Woods, like the username, you know? Like your Google account has the username, and then you actually adjust the channel to say something else. And as soon as I said that, I'm like, that's not what it's called anymore, is it? No, wrong video. Actually, yeah, I think it is just called Music Matthew Wood. So, yay! I wasn't wrong the first time.
You weren't wrong. You're right. You're right, Matt.
Except
you're on the left side. Of the screen.
Well, technically, I'm on the right side of the desk and the law. All right, hit us with the word of the day. Let me bring it on up here since I have fancy.
Okay, well, we're going with the word that you hit us up with, moratorium. I didn't even know.
Antonym to
I never heard
lessatorium.
that. So, I think the definition that fits is a suspension of ongoing activity, but apparently it also applies to an authorization to a debtor permitting a temporary suspension of payments. So
Interesting. So that's
said,
what I meant.
yeah, well, you said, well, you meant suspension.
Mhm.
You know, I forget what it's a noun, so you'd say I took a moratorium, or I on Facebook
Imposed a moratorium.
imposed a moratorium.
I
on
enacted a
Facebook.
moratorium.
I like enacted. Okay.
I moratorium. Gotcha. Is there a noun version of that? To moratorize?
You mean verb?
That's yeah. A verb. Words are hard.
More.
Ninja Words doesn't have that. Ninja Words is
I
too
will,
fast.
I
Oh,
will
look, a
look it up.
dog. Hey, dog, what's up? Do you need help? I think the dog might need help. Come here. Oh, come on. Come. She doesn't trust me. All right, you don't get to see the dog. She doesn't want to hop up on my lap. She's too big anyway. 80 pounds. Large animal. Moratorium. Yeah, suspension of ongoing activity. Although some people might say I'm not actually very active on my social media, but I do read it. So there was a moratorium of that. Absolutely. Let's see. Have you ever seen a professional storyteller that uses a keyboard for sound effects and music during the whole telling? It's pretty awesome, like old-time radio stories. I haven't, but that sounds interesting. If I Googled professional storyteller, is that what would come up? Is that like the actual title, or are you just like describing it by saying that? I don't know. That would be interesting to like play your own theme music. Like they used to have the organ player at the silent movies to play like the music when there's like a chase or something, and you're like, and they were running. Dun, 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 dun. No, that's they entered a cantina in Mos Eisley's. All right. Sweet. All right, you're up on the screen still. Why is that? There we go. All right. Let's talk. Oh, goodness. Why is this? It's for some reason everything's always in a different place every time I come down here, and I start clicking on the wrong stuff. Mostly describing it, but yeah, it's a thing. Okay. All right. I'll look it up later. I'm sure you're not wrong. Somebody's doing that thing again.
Which thing?
So we either have like 30 people who one by one every minute log on and then log off, and then the next minute a different person logs on and logs on. Or there's a person that for some reason keeps dropping connectivity and keeps clicking on the video because like our view count constantly goes like 5 6 5 6 5 6 5 6 5 6 7 6 7 6 7 6 7. I mean, it's at the end of the show we have like 30 views, but I don't know. So whoever you are, I don't mind that you keep connecting back on the thing. I'm just confused as to why the numbers keep doing that. If it's every minute a different person finds the stream randomly, but no two people find it at the same time, that would be pretty, I would say lucky, but not very lucky. I would prefer all 30 people find the stream at the same time. We can all have a discussion. That would be ideal.
Maybe they're just having trouble connecting.
Maybe. Like I said, maybe it's somebody. That's me. The video keeps timing out and I have to go back and come back in. Now I know who's giving us all that ad revenue on our non-monetized videos. We don't actually get ad revenue for those. So, I'm sorry. I need to clean this page up so that I'm not sharing all my Facebook stuff as I read your notes. Can I not do that? How do I view this in... Sorry, folks. I'm going to have to do something a bit... I have to Jimmy rig this a little.
Jimmy rig it?
Yeah, I brought it up on...
Jerry rig.
Yeah, you don't... Wait, jerry rig? You mean gerrymander? Or
No.
Mandolin.
That's completely... Oh, that was funny.
Thank you.
Was
Where
not expecting
is...
that. What are you looking for?
I'm just trying to breathe it in my microphone repeatedly. I'm looking for somewhere to post this text so that it's not sitting on my Facebook because like all of my contacts are there, my main bar and everything. I'm trying to do this
Oh, you need to spot.
cleanly. Yeah, I need to just put this somewhere so that we can have it up on screen and we can read it together. And I didn't plan enough ahead. Let me...
Well, I could bring it up on mine.
I got
and then you can,
Yeah, I'm going to use OneNote. I used that the other day. What was it? Matt was complaining. He's like, take notes. I'm like, okay. And I bring up OneNote. He's like, not OneNote. In Notepad. The heck is the difference, dude? So, yep. There you go. All right.
What's the difference? OneNote sounds stupider.
Well, what if you're only reading one note? That's not why it's called that. But, okay, come on. Here we go. And then we zoom. And then we have... Oh, yeah. Perfect. Get good at this.
Oh, that is Amor.
Yeah. That's all right. It's worse things that could be happening right now. All right. Thank goodness for my crappy internet, right? Definitely. That's weird that the video keeps timing out. I blame your computer. There we go.
Whoa.
No? There it is. Wow. All right. Gun control debates. Why is that top bar there?
What? Oh, the little
Yeah.
bar.
No, that's all right. I try to make it nice and clean so it's it's not distracting. All right. So there's a couple of these I wanted to hit specifically. Like I said, Joe wrote this. I thought it was very well put together. I wanted to talk about it a little bit and then talk less about gun control itself. Move on to the actual reasons these things happen, aside from the fact that there's a gun. So, social implications. All right. So, every time a major massacre involving a lone gunman is reported, I learn a little more about the two sides of the gun control debate. Here are some observations and notes of patterns I see in the general consensus from both sides. That was in the first person from Joe, who's sitting across the room from me. Do you have this pulled up, Joe?
I did, but I closed out of it.
Oh, I was going to ask you to read it in your words.
Oh, well, I mean, I can see it
Do
right
that.
here. So
Oh, can
if
you
want
really?
me to.
Oh, that would. Can you see that well enough?
Oh, absolutely.
Good.
It
That
looks
means they
great.
can too.
Yeah.
I'm going to specifically.
But you
Talk-
can read it. It's okay.
No. I'd rather you did. I'm going to specifically target the ones because I fall on that line. There's a line down the middle, right? Obviously, that's how all debates work. There's a line. You're on one side or you're the other. No middle ground whatsoever. So I fall on the line somewhere of less gun regulation, not less than we have, less in general. The idea is less than as little as necessary. There you go. As little as necessary. So I want to focus on those, your specific comments to people like me who would go ham on that side. So if you could read one, we'll scroll down to and skip the ones that say 4 for right now.
Okay. Yeah, this one is probably maybe the easiest to address. People against more gun regulation continue to state it's too soon to talk about gun regulation when a gun violence tragedy had recently occurred. You need to recognize that people like to act swiftly as they can. You need to recognize that some people like to act swiftly as they can to prevent future tragedies. Why is it too soon? Is it disrespectful to the dead or their families? Are you worried about too much emotional influence on legislative decisions? Maybe list your reasons why, because it sounds hollow. I mean, if someone in my family drowned, you don't think I'd be discussing and warning people about how it happened and ways to prevent future tragedies? Or if I'm too emotionally distraught to address it, that I wouldn't want others to work on preventing such an unnecessary tragedy ASAP. So please state why, if you think we should wait a week or two after an incident to discuss preventative measures.
Me specifically, I don't think that it's too soon to talk about things like this right after. I know there's a lot of people that do. I've even people that I agree with who say that, I think it's agree with on other topics. When they say this, I disagree with them. I don't, for the reason you stated. If something happened, like somebody I knew drowned, I wouldn't be like, well, can we just hold off on trying to fix this problem until it's not, I'm not so emotional about it. But by the same token, something I've seen this last week that's really cheesed me off a bit, I'll try to discuss respectfully, is when the news has been taking students from this high school in Florida and putting them on air and then asking them pointed questions about like legislation. Do you think legislators have let you down? And what do you think about people who take money from the NRA, knowing full well that they're going to get emotionally charged responses that are understandably not based in facts and statistics, because when that just happened to you, your friend, your school, the last thing you're thinking about is statistics. You know, not well, this doesn't happen everywhere. It's a fact now. This happened here. It wasn't. It was a horrible thing, but these comments from these, as they call themselves, children. We're kids. The people have been giving them so much weight as to infer policy from them, which I think is a bad idea. Somebody who is too close to a situation like that can't think clearly enough to be reasoned and level-headed about it. We were talking earlier that that guy in court, the father of two girls who'd been molested by this doctor, he rushes at the guy and jumps over the table at him because he asked the judge, he's like, can I get 5 minutes alone in a room with that guy? Obviously, the judge is going to say no. So he jumps over the thing and just rushes at him to try and get a swing at the guy. I don't think he's the person we should be asking to sentence this guy, you know, reasonably, or to judge him reasonably, because he's a little too close to the situation. He's emotionally charged. As satisfying as it is, you could hear the cops that jumped on the guy to hold him down to be like, hey, don't go punch this guy. We're trying to prosecute right now. You could hear the cops being like, I get it. I know. I'd punch the guy too if I were you. If I could, I would. But that's not how this works.
Yeah, I think that's what the judge said as they were taking the guy out. He said, "This is not how we do this.
Yes,
we have laws and you know, like a certain process to that you have to go through. You can't just jump up and attack the guy."
So actually, the guy was brought back. He was like held in contempt of court because you can't do that. And the judge was like, I understand why you did that. I don't agree with it. I think it was a terrible thing to do. You can't disrespect the courtroom like that. And he's like, I have the utmost respect for the law. I was overcome with, rage and upset and emotion. And she's like, I believe you. Apology accepted. Let's not talk about it any further. I mean, she could have, put him in jail and charged him with something, but she's just like, I get it. Let's just forget it happened. We'll move on. And because she understands that people do things that they wouldn't normally do when they're emotionally charged like that. I think that goes, I think that applies here as well, where we have people saying essentially that like the NRA are murderers, and like somebody said Marco Rubio was they were looking at Marco Rubio and they're like, looking at you, all I can see is the barrel of an AR-15 and Nicholas Cruz. So like it's really difficult to talk to you because all I see is like a school shooter when I look at you. That's emotionally charged. It's not helpful to a conversation, and I don't think I think it does nothing but divide. So I'm missing the chat because it's very small on my screen. I'm bringing it up. Just everything's everywhere right now.
Amor Pizza says,
Thank you.
said, imagine if people use the too soon argument when all the Planned Parenthood / abortion thing that happened back in 2015.
I'm trying to remember which one that was. I don't remember when that was. Are you talking about when the doctors that were like the clinic that was bombed? I don't remember what you're referring to. Remind me. The only reason to wait is to give time for the details to emerge. Too many people jump on things and end up being inaccurate. Absolutely accurate, or absolutely true. There's a reason to not start jumping to the conclusion of it's the favorite thing of people to do is to try and give this person a political affiliation so they can demonize everybody on that, with that political affiliation. This guy was a Bernie supporter.
Yeah. This guy was liberal. This guy was a Democrat.
And this guy was a white nationalist. Therefore, this is Trump's America. That story turned out to be false.
Oh, I do remember that, Amor.
What's that? As far as let's see. They were selling body parts of aborted babies. Oh no, everybody believes that. Everybody knows. They just didn't think that was a big deal.
Not everybody believes that.
No, the selling of body parts. They were like, yeah, it was for research and like stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. I have not seen anybody contest that and go, that's not fake. They said they took it out of context. They said, well, yeah, they're selling baby body parts, but they're not like trying to get rich, and they're doing it properly, and they're selling it to people who like do studies with them and things like that.
I had a lot of people who flat out denied that something
Really?
like that was happening. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Everybody I heard who was like pro-abortion was just like, I mean, yeah, what else are we going to do? It's not like they're babies. It's just tissue. I mean, you may as well like send in, it's like a biopsy of a tumor. You know, you send it in to have it, you know, checked or something like, but yeah. No, but if the opposite side had said too soon to talk about it, yep. I would not agree with that as well. But trying to get the facts straight is important, so you can't jump directly on like specific regulation of like they always say background checks. Well, we cleared a background check. There wasn't really a lapse in the purchase of the firearm. The person who sold him the gun wasn't at fault there. So
Oh, and
yeah.
Yeah, there was one more comment Amor had.
Mm-hmm.
As far as lawmaking goes, hopefully due process could stop anything hasty or emotional in this sense. Unfortunately, they have loopholes for due process. So I think that was just in response to that first bullet point on the gun control.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead and let's continue with point 5 here.
Point 5. Okay, people against more gun regulation continue to point at mental illness as the main source for those harrowing news stories, but I don't see any solutions being presented for ensuring that guns are relinquished from the mentally ill. It's also good to note that people do not need a mental illness to be evil. You really need to keep that in mind, as we don't consider all tyrannical figures to have had mental illnesses. So know that generalizing gun violence entirely to mental illness is ultimately not going to help your cause.
I saw a tweet earlier I want to bring up that relates to this. So if you as you said, you don't need a mental illness to be evil. How can we find people who are evil if they're not like listed with mental illnesses? What proactively can we do to avoid these kinds of things that doesn't involve gun control? Or you know what? At this point, you concede that point. Let's say I agree with you, not you, but hypothetical person. Let's say I agree with you, and that we need to just remove all firearms from the face of the planet. We can just magnetically suck them all into space and then blast them into the sun. No firearms anymore. It's not an issue. Yay, we won. Now, what do we do about the other component that is there are people who think it's a good idea to go shoot high school students? Because, like, that's a problem, too, whether or not they have a gun. We have people in our society who want to harm large amounts of people, seemingly for no legitimate reason, but seemingly for no reason. I'm sure they concoct reasons up in their head. Columbine shooters wrote extensively in their manifesto about how human beings are just evil and that existence itself shouldn't exist because there's just so much pain, and they want to destroy as much of life as possible because it's not fair that it exists. That's not something I would consider to be good points. Like, I see what you mean there. But they came to their own logical conclusion that this was the move. That's what I mean when I say logical reason. So what would we do about that? That we have people who have that kind of mindset or develop that kind of mindset?
Well, I think it's like a community thing to notice those things. Surely some people must have noticed that he had issues growing up. Didn't he shoot people's pets with a BB gun?
Yeah, the police have been called to his home like 37 times for instances of he was shooting at animals with BB guns. I think he assaulted his mother. He assaulted members of his family, and so the police were more than aware that this kid was causing trouble. But he was never actually put. Sorry, I'm missing the chat again. I found what it is I was looking for. What? No, I didn't. All right. He was like right there at the edge of being put into a database that would say this person shouldn't own a gun. All they really would have had to do, and speaking as someone who is against the idea of trying to grab as many guns from people as possible, all they would have had to do is legally require he go to a mental institution, even like temporarily to go be checked out, to have a psychiatrist or whatever mark off and say, yes, this kid has some serious anger issues, abandonment issues. Both of his parents had died. Social, what's the word I'm looking for? He's not socially fluent.
Antisocial.
Yeah, he's very antisocial. This kid needs to be medicated. He needs to be, that would show up on a background check if there was an official police, report said this is a dangerous person. That wasn't done. If it had been, background checks that we already have today that were run when he bought this AR-15 a year ago. So there were things in place that just didn't catch it. But I saw a very good video by a YouTuber by the name of Blonde in the Belly of the Beast, and it was fairly extensive. She went through the childhood and family life of the perpetrators of like the largest major mass shootings, and it was very interesting. There's a lot of similarities. There's like common threads through them all about coming from broken homes, having serious social problems, being medicated for like ADHD and stress and things like that as kids, and so there are factors that are present in most of these that are signs, and like I said earlier, somebody presenting with these problems shouldn't be put on a list and said, hey, you cannot have a gun. But when somebody who has all of these manifested social problems, anger issues, and is then interacting with police almost 40 times, that's where I think we should start putting people on lists and not allowing them to purchase firearms. If there's a line, I think it's somewhere before then. Let me look at the chat real quick, and then definitely. I want to... Yeah, let me look at the... There it is. I found that tweet I was looking for. Let's catch up on the chat. I'm way behind over here. Let's see. Important distinction to make here. They said the shooter was diagnosed with autism and called it a mental illness. What? I did not hear that. Autism is not a mental illness, but often autistic people have comorbid mental illnesses. Yeah. High functioning autism, I assume. All autism. Oh, yeah, the shooter. Also, people with mental illness are actually less likely to harm people around them than most other people, but are at higher risk of harming themselves than others. Yes, he posted on Snapchat himself slashing his arms with a knife. And, of course, kids or whatever were like, yeah, this kid, he's doing things that are not normal. For some reason, that was not brought to the attention of the people who would put him on some kind of list. Which, being very conservative, just sounds so weird to say. Put this guy on a list, man. Just take away his Second Amendment right. But there's a reason we have those background checks. Not everybody is allowed to have a gun. There are people who fall into categories, qualification, or that preclude them from qualifying for
or
things
share
like this.
Similar names to those who do and are also denied.
Is that a thing? People who share...
That was one of my bullet points. One of my biggest regrets about writing this list is that I don't cite my sources. So when I get some more time, I need to go back through and kind of, even if it's like Wikipedia style, APA is that the format? Where you have the little footnotes.
I don't know what you... Oh, okay. I know what that is.
You have the little number
I've
footnotes.
seen
and
that
then you
anyway.
can scroll down and look. But at least one person has been denied. That's, I mean, I don't know how many people, but
Because
it
they
does
have the
happen.
same
If your
name as somebody
if
who's
your
on the
name
list.
yeah, if your name is similar to someone who's had a criminal background, and you could get denied because of that, or at least like lengthen the process of obtaining a gun.
I wonder if that person has a hard time like finding a job because they run a background check and they're like, we're not hiring this guy.
Maybe.
Doesn't it say he's still in prison? Maybe. And then you wouldn't know because they don't go, oh, we're not hiring you because you're a felon. I think that's actually illegal
What?
to discriminate unless like the job like involves interaction with people where you would be a danger. You're not allowed to not give someone a job just because they have a criminal record. Like some jobs, obviously. But specific ones, you can't do that. That's discrimination of some kind. I don't know. Yes, we were talking earlier, Joe and I, about people who have a hard time socially and how they get to the point where they are so ostracized or not even ostracized, but unable to function in society enough that like I looked, I couldn't find anywhere somebody saying it was so weird. Like I got to school or I heard some people texting me saying that my best friend went and shot up a school. Like, where is this kid's best friend?
Highly doubt he had one.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it's weird that they're not like I was playing video games with him last night and he's like, oh, I'm tired, I gotta get up early tomorrow, and then tomorrow he gets up early and goes and shoots at school. I like, so. And it's not that I think this, but I'm putting it out there because this is how people think about things. This is the process of thinking. Is there any not even responsibility? Is there any, I don't want to say this in too harsh of terms, but I'm going to, and I don't mean to. Is there any responsibility on the part of his peers?
Or blame.
Thank you. Is there any blame to be had?
If you wanna be-
Culpability for kids who are like, this kid, this monster came and attacked us, and he'd been kicked out of that school. He wasn't a student anymore, but he'd been kicked out of that school like years ago. At some point, he was at high school. I'm not saying like the students there then, but there were people in his life growing up that for some reason or another he wound up here mentally instead of somewhere else.
I wouldn't.
How many people saw him going that direction and were just like, that guy's too crazy. I'm just gonna let him go be crazy over there and be alone, because him being alone is definitely better than socializing with people, since he's socially awkward. And like I said, it's not that I'm not trying to put blame on people. But
I wouldn't say there's blame, but
blame or culpability.
I would
like,
say that there's a responsibility for people to try to reach out or keep, at least see what other people are like, and not just, I don't know. I went to public high school for a year, for my freshman year, and I feel like there's always those 2 or 3 kids that are alone and weird, and they have issues, and people don't like to hang out with them, or they would just completely ignore them or make fun of them. Probably the butt of many jokes and pranks, and that kind of stuff adds up. I'm not saying that's anybody's fault, because you can't blame his actions on somebody else, but you can say, well, things might have turned out a little different if, for instance, he had a best friend.
So. Interesting point about that. A lot of people who I hear clamoring for gun control, like I said, a lot of these kids, they get on TV and they're like, tell us how you're all children and you're all at risk and how adults have all failed you, and that what we need to do is moving forward, not looking back at what at the system, the way it worked and the way it didn't work, and who had this kid fall through the cracks. Let's look forward and go, we're going to stop this by not addressing what happened, but by banning assault rifles or machine guns, which are already banned. So they look forward and they say, let's just start doing stuff that has nothing to do with what happened. Let's just start like doing things that will make us feel better, and feel like we're making a difference. But at this point, that's happened. If we're going to look forward and try and figure out how we can... Gee whiz, there was a freaking spider on my hand. Dang it. Oh, I wish I'd have dealt with that with a little, cooler head. I got to go back and watch that frame where my face realized there's a spider on my hand. Where'd it go? Instead of... Don't laugh at me.
Well, I didn't see it, so...
Good. That's all right.
Your face or the spider.
So looking forward, there are likely kids out there right now who are on that path to doing that. Are kids in school right now thinking, how am I going to stop this from happening? I'm going to go out and hold a protest sign, and I'm going to scream and yell at Marco Rubio about how he's a murderer because he takes money from the NRA, and yelling, shouting, and screaming at Dana Lash that she's a murderer because she works with the NRA, and telling people they don't care and that they just want children murdered. That's how I'm going to make a difference and make sure this doesn't happen again. Or are there kids going, this kid got to the point where he wanted to go kill people. Let's see if we can not allow people to get that far down a dark path. Who can I talk to today? Who's that kid at school that everybody goes, that kid's going to be a school shooter someday?
That's even a thing. Like people say, like
people said that about
I'm not like be nice to the quiet kid because they're the ones who are, they're gonna look at you when they come back with a gun. They're gonna look at you and said, "You were my friend."
Yep. Dane Cook has a joke where he says, "I always buy the weird guy at the office a Snickers, just randomly, so that when he goes on a rampage to the office and shooting everybody, leans into the desk where I'm hiding and goes, 'Thanks for the Snickers,' and then goes around and shoots everybody else." Which was funny 10, 15 years ago. Yeah, the irony is obviously funny. But so, in that vein of thought, let's go. This is a tweet I saw. Somebody I know retweeted it. So I don't know who this guy is, but in response to Parkland, my daughter's middle school has been moving kids around to other classes and getting them to get to know kids they wouldn't otherwise know, as well as creating projects, workshops to put kids in groups that aren't only made up of their friends. I have always had a problem with this. Specifically, I don't. I think this is a good idea. Let me say that off the bat. I like this response. This is something proactive. This is something that I just looked down and saw Hitler's art. It's really... This is why I don't always still catch the chat, because it's distracting. I am in favor of this kind of proactive thing. This is exactly what I'm talking about right now. I have always disliked the idea of where they push this too far with young children, where 7 or 8, and they're like they banned best friends in a school somewhere. Where was that? I think it was Canada, where they said you're not allowed to have best friends because it's exclusionary to other people. So that's taking that idea a bit far.
What?
Yeah, they were like, kids in school are not allowed to have a best friend because it excludes other kids, and you're going to pair off, and then somebody's going to be without a friend, which just isn't fair. So
That's interesting. Actually, I just want to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So the only reason I would think to make a rule like that is if kids were not like banding, like everyone was just like not talking to each other, because I feel like there's no better way to get people to do something like that, to join forces, than to say no, you can't do that. Like, I mean, I feel like everyone in that school would secretly have a best friend.
Well, exactly. That was my first reaction too. They try and make rules to force people to do things they don't normally do, whereas it seems to me, not being an educator, but it seems to me a more productive approach might be to approach it from the idea of this. Let's facilitate opportunities for kids to get to know each other, rather than saying you're not allowed. I mean, next thing you know, they're going to hear kids being like, oh, yeah, we're having a sleepover tonight. And they're like, excuse me, Tommy, didn't you have a sleepover at Jimmy's house yesterday? I think you should go have a sleepover at, Jared's house over there, because I don't want to have to write you up tomorrow. That's going a bit far, but then if someone had told me 2 years ago maybe, a year ago I'd have believed it. 2 years ago, yeah, these schools are going to start banning best friends. Yeah, it's going a bit far. Don't straw man. Let me look at the chat real
Yeah.
quick. It's funny what qualifies the right to take away another person's rights. It simply comes down to preventing them from taking away other people's rights. Funny loop, isn't it? I would say a little bit, yes. Kids at school can have, I assume that means culpability, or whatever better word you have for that. Kids at school can be really brutal, and a lot of shooters were known at school as the mocked outsider kid. But by the same token, does that place responsibility on the parents of the kids that mocked the weird kid? I would say to some degree. That's one of the tricky things about public school is a lot of times you don't know what your kid is doing. You know, a lot of parents are surprised to know. What do you mean, my little Timmy is being mean to kids on the playground? He's not a mean kid. I know parents who they'll write these big long angry posts about their teacher. My teacher says my son was lying, and I know my son doesn't lie. And I'm like, you're saying your teacher's a liar, but your 6-year-old isn't. 6-year-olds lie. Like, he might not lie to you because he respects you and he knows you punish him specific ways. But like the teacher, it's highly likely this kid who spends hours a day in a completely different environment with completely different parental units is going to act differently. Some parents do not want to accept that. Somebody I know is actually moving out of the state to avoid these people who inaccurately call their kid a liar. You, the parent, make the decisions, but I would say
Wow.
some kids, I would say some kids, some parents of children probably do not know a lot about what their kid does at school. So some responsibility on the parents, but I would say it's there's a lot to go into there. I'm not going to go into all of it. I think the real answer to this is education reform, but not in the sense most people would take it. Yes, maybe we should try to find ways. Tetrion Productions. Hey, I don't. Is that you? Tetrion Productions.
No, I'm Twig Pie.
I know, but I didn't know if you were sock puppeting.
No, that's a real person.
That's a real person watching our show. Welcome. Maybe we should all try to find ways to love those around us more and reach out to those who don't have anyone. That might help more than any federal or state policy. Absolutely. What a wonderfully succinct way of saying what I was trying to say for the last 15 minutes of we need to be kinder to people around us, because only in a world where there are pockets of such strong hate and darkness can things like this emerge. I know what I was going to say earlier is I know it's intimidating for a specific person to go, I'm going to go hang out with that weird kid that nobody likes, and I'm going to risk my social capital, my social status on maybe talking to this kid who might not like me either. But it would be far a group of kids who hang out all the time and go, you know what? That kid doesn't have a group. Let's try being his group. Maybe he will quietly fit in well in our group, where one-on-one, one of us tries to go be his best friend, wouldn't work terribly well. So I think there are a lot of things that people can do, but finding ways to love those around us more is definitely a principled, foundational idea to build on to do things like this, to have kids spend time with other kids they wouldn't normally spend time with, and learn to appreciate, making new friends, and just.
I guess
that.
parents could be at blame if they restricted or banned their kids from hanging out with certain other kids. But even if them hanging out didn't change that person, or didn't positively affect them, you'd still have you'd know more about them and have indications of things.
Mm-hmm.
This was a person that fell through the cracks.
I mean, okay, so basically, I want to live in a world where everybody can have a gun and nobody needs one. Where we're all free, but but everybody's perfect.
How about the level-headed ones among us can have the guns?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I would love to live in a world where everybody is allowed to, and everybody
Is level-headed.
is level-headed, and nobody has mental
Emotionally
illness.
stable.
No, yeah, there's no need to use it because there aren't people who do these kinds of things. So, I think the difference between my excuse me, my idea of that and somebody else who disagrees with me would probably be the approach that people are going to be evil. Let's just remove their opportunity to kill people quickly, and
Or easily.
that's what I mean. Well, that's usually the complaint is how many mags per second or a round will cycle through a super ghost gun chamber with chainsaw bayonet on it. People have no idea what they're talking about. Is that you can just take out so many people so quickly? The damage done by these weapons, yeah, it's kind of hard to argue with that logic. People are just there are going to be bad people, and if there were no guns, they wouldn't be able to go around shooting people. But my only rebuttal to that is, what about the weakest among us who can't defend themselves without a weapon? I heard someone say that you only need the only reason you need a gun for self-defense is because there are guns. If nobody had a gun, you wouldn't need a gun to defend yourself. Not true. I don't think carrying a knife in your purse is going to help some, 4'10" person from a tall, a mugger who's like 1.5 feet taller than you. The great equalizer is
I was gonna say that.
Colt 45 pistol.
The great
That if a
equalizer.
guy sneaks up and tries to, jump you and take your purse, you reach your hand in your purse and you put, 6 rounds through his chest. No matter who he is, unless he's in full body armor, that's a far easier way for you to protect yourself. Not from a guy with a gun, but from anybody who wants to invade your physical rights to safety. Or as most pro-gun advocates would say, your right to self-preservation. So there is an argument along with, hey, let's take all the guns. People are going to be evil. Let's remove their opportunity to be evil. The inverse of that would be, hey, I would like it if my wife was capable of defending herself from a carjacker who's hyped up on bath salts and is not interested in being polite to her because she's a woman or she's driving a minivan and goes, I'll steal this guy's sports car instead. I would very much like it if she was, capable of defending herself. And I think without a gun, that's a severe disadvantage. So if you want to remove all guns, we talked about that, I think it was in October with the other gun control. The last time we had this debate about how I'm like, well, maybe we should give, no, it was after that, it was the YouTube episode. Maybe we should give every woman a pistol. Just let every woman carry a pistol in her purse. And then every guy will respect women because he knows every single one of them is packing and trained to use it. So no, I'm not trying to bring up that debate again. It was certainly an interesting
Thought
it was a thought experiment. It was a mental little exercise there. But the reason most people buy weapons is defense, and the reason we have a right to them is defense. People are crazy. People are evil. People will attack you with whatever it is they have to attack you with. You have the right to utilize whatever's reasonable. Hand grenades. I'm pro hand grenade. Let's go back to the chat. Did I miss the if only somebody had liked Hitler's art? I don't think I read that one out loud. Even if I did, I just read it again because it's funny. I think we should encourage interaction between people of different ages. Having mentors and role models who influence each other can help keep these kids from falling through the cracks. That's a wonderful point. Something I noticed when I was a Boy Scout. I'm an Eagle Scout. Was a Boy Scout since I was 8. Loved it. When you're 11-year-old Scouts, you start going on campouts with the older Scouts. So you have Scouts who are like 17, 15, 13, going on campouts with like 11-year-olds. And like when you're 11, that's all you want is to hang out with the guys who are older than you. Like, you know, you've got quarterback of the football team helping you build a fire. Like that's the what was the word? Role models. To have role models who are older than you like that, who are actually, you know, teaching you things, it definitely will help kids from falling through the cracks. Because unless all the older kids are loner, creepy, potential school shooters, there's going to be positive influence on the younger kids who hopefully will be able to steer clear of a path that will lead them to go shoot up a school. Agreed. It says eat more pizza. I think we're all in agreement.
Batman's
I feel
not
like
in
I know
agreement.
who this is. Who's Batman? I'd rather have a bad day than be a murderer. What did I miss? Defense against. Oh, okay. Defense of one against many is also a big equalizer. 3 troublemakers can have a bad day against one good person thanks to firearms. Wait. What? 3 troublemakers can have a bad day against one good person? I'd rather have a bad day than be a murderer. Is Batman saying he was one of the 3 troublemakers? I'm sorry. I'm very confused by that. It's like I'd rather. Strange. All right. Well, I don't know what to make of that comment. The older scouts helped me so much in those early years, sharing food and water, even dry clothes when things got tough. You know what? One of the most I will never forget experiences I had as a Boy Scout that taught me a lot about helping people who are less fortunate than yourself. I was less fortunate because I was 11 or 12, and it was like a 5-mile hike into the camp. And, of course, the older scouts were much faster and stronger, and some of us were struggling and falling behind. When the older scouts got to the camp, maybe a half hour ahead of everybody else, the first thing they did was drop their packs, turn around, and come back. And so we're like 4 miles into this hike and just exhausted. And all the big scouts come up, they grab our packs, and then they run back to camp with them. And we got to do the last mile backpack free, which was awesome. A week's worth of camping gear on your back is a lot for a 12-year-old. And I was like, why did he do that? Like, I am hating this right now. And if I could stop, I would stop. But he just turned around, came back, and did another voluntary mile. Because he was he had no problem doing that run. He was far more, quote unquote, fortunate. He was older, he was bigger than I was. He saw that and went, this is going to be less difficult for me than it is for him. And he came back and he helped me. Several scouts came back and helped us, several scouts. So that was, one of those formative moments where I was like, oh, this is what it feels like when you help someone. This is what they feel like when you help somebody who's like, I'm not sure I can finish this hike. And somebody goes, oh, yeah, you can. Here, let me take all that weight off your back. Things like that can be extremely, extremely helpful. And that is why
Character forming.
I'm not going to make that joke. That's why I'm a good person today instead of a bad person. So, yes, the classroom I grew up in was compiled of ages spanning 5 years apart. Wow, all learned together. That's a good school. None of us fell through. None of us fell through the cracks, and we were all pretty weird. There you go.
Nothing wrong with being weird.
Nothing wrong with being weird. It's only when people have something problem with you being weird, and it's everybody else's fault. Hey, weird people, it's everybody else's fault. It's not what I'm trying to say.
So what did we learn?
Yeah, everybody in the chat,
tonight?
tell us. What consensus did we come to?
Did we learn how to talk to idiots?
I think we had a much better conversation here. I tried to, like I said, I'm trying to stay away from the these are statistics, because last time in October, that's what I did. I went and I looked up, here are the statistics. I spent like 20 minutes on, did you guys know that alcohol kills 80,000 people a year? Did you know the alcohol lobby is 3 times what the gun lobby is in the United States? They're killing more than twice as many people. They've got tens of millions of dollars more than the gun lobby. Nobody says anything. We could save thousands of lives if we just made alcohol illegal.
Oh.
Why are we not doing that? Why are we not
illegal
doing
for
that?
kids? But that doesn't stop them.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Oh, wait, what? You mean banning something doesn't stop people from using it? Funny that. It's almost like we tried that before with alcohol, and it didn't help very
did.
much, and it got worse, and they removed the.
That was actually one of the points that I stated. So
Yeah, that's right. We're getting short on time, so like I said, I put the link to that that post that Joe did in the description. I would highly recommend reading all of it. It is very good. Do comment on it as it asks with whatever your thoughts are on it, agreements, disagreements, citations.
yeah,
And like I said, I think at this point everybody has pretty much made up their mind as to whether or not they want statistics that agree with them or if they want the statistics that agree with somebody else. I think a possible way to move forward and actually make progress on this kind of a conversation is to see where we can agree minus the gun debate. It needs to happen somewhere. We need to figure that out. We need to make progress on that. But I think switching the conversation right now, because honestly, do you think you're making a difference? Like, do you think you're A, changing minds, or B, even if you are you like creating legislation through your arguments on Facebook? Like, really? Do you? Because all you're really doing is making yourself look like an unreasonable person. Or you're making other people look like unreasonable people. So it really isn't helpful to say, you're an idiot. Why on earth could we put more guns in school? That's not going to help anybody. You're not changing minds. You're not helping the conversation. Let's talk about guns off the table. I agree with you. Just try that. Try that with somebody. I agree with you. Cool. Background checks are fine the way they are. Guns are fine the way they are. Whatever. Let's pretend for a minute we agree legislation stays the same. Or, if you're on that side of the argument, let's just pretend all the guns went away. Cool. What else can we do about this obvious problem it's not only about guns? What can we do in our society? Because even if guns is the biggest problem to solve, there are other problems. There are other reasons this happened. There are also this, which we talked about. Try having that conversation, because maybe you can change minds. Maybe it's not even about changing minds. Maybe it's enlightening people. Maybe there are kids who know that person. Maybe when someone says, hey, let's try to stop the next school shooter, before they decide to go shoot up a school, someone pops into your head and you go, oh, yeah, that person. You're right. Maybe we should do something about that person, because I can see that already coming on the horizon.
yes, yeah.
Maybe that's a better conversation to have, and maybe that will actually make a difference. It is more likely that you or someone you know or someone you talk to can go change a specific individual's path in life than we on Facebook will solve the gun control debate through having the most vigorous arguments. Feel free to disagree, but you're wrong and you're an idiot.
He's just kidding, by the way.
No. You. I'm kidding. You do not have the right to disagree. All right, let's go ahead and make sure. Let's make sure we got all the chats in. Do you have?
My mouth has been my avatar's mouth has been hanging open like for half of the show.
I said something shocking. I apologize. I forget what it was. Students are culpable for this, and his jaw just dropped to the floor and never popped back up again. If I said anything during this episode that you find reprehensible or upsetting or unreasonable, this entire purpose of this entire show is trying thoughts on for size. So if you didn't like it, tell me you didn't like it, and I'll go, hey, good point. Let's stop thinking that thought. Anything else before I pound through these super chats and close this out?
I'm trying to think. I did have a thought, but until I remember it, I remember somehow Twitch played Pokemon worked their way into our conversation, but I don't remember at what
Oh, okay. So we were talking about the ridiculous points in our system, our political system, the way it is set up to be so divisive that we just try to win the election. We just try to win the election because if we can get enough seats in the House, we don't have to compromise. We can simply pass the legislation we want and then nullify the legislation that was previously passed under the previous administration. For example, the Affordable Care Act, all of the right campaigned on the idea of removing that legislation. We're going to repeal and replace. Also, people were complaining that Donald Trump had he had signed into law something that removed a certain database of people who had been listed as somewhat mentally defective, mentally deficient, mental defective. I forget what the term exactly is, but he said these people don't have to be listed, sent to the FBI so that they can not buy weapons. So essentially, people were complaining because Obama signed a law saying something about background checks. Look it up. That's not my point. My point is that we pass laws, and then the next people get in office, and then they erase the laws, pass their own laws, and we end up just, like I was saying to Joe earlier, it's like somebody gets in the driver's seat and they drive like a quarter mile in one direction, and then they get thrown out of the driver's seat. Somebody else hops in, they turn the car around, and they drive a quarter mile back the other direction, and there isn't really good progress being made. We're going somewhere, but it certainly doesn't seem like any sort of reasonable compromise. And then Joe brought up Twitch TV plays. Where is it at? Twitch TV plays Pokemon. Explain what this is.
Okay.
Can you make that bigger? Sorry.
Which part?
If you're reading any of it.
The logo? Oh, no, I'm...
okay, cool.
Okay, well, the idea is you have an emulator on the computer that's connected basically to the internet. And through this, there's like a little hive mind interface. It allows like 1,000 people to sort of vote on what keys to press in the game. So you have, I think they started with Pokemon Red, then they did Pokemon Crystal, and then some other ones. I think Emerald. And,
I love the internet. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah, there's two. Basically, there's two modes: democracy and anarchy. And they did different experiments with how to decide which mode you're in. For instance, I think one system that's used for a while, they had every hour you'd get to vote, and if the majority voted, or if it's in a mode, like let's say it's in democracy, and then anarchy would need only a majority to switch to it. If it was in anarchy, you would need a super majority to switch to democracy.
Wow, that's
which
interesting.
You said a super majority is like 60
I think
votes
it's 60.
50.
I forget. I've been told many
60
times.
out of 100. I mean, anyway, in anarchy mode, I think. Anarchy things got done faster, but
Anarchy things got done faster?
Yeah, believe it or not. Yeah, democracy.
Yeah, but like what was getting done?
Yeah, I mean,
it's like
it
they
depends.
burned down
like,
all the houses and killed everyone in record time.
Yeah, I mean,
stuff happened.
Democracy, it took a very long time because you had to wait. Like, I think it was like 30 seconds, and then everybody had to vote on what key to press.
On pushing a key.
The next 30 seconds, you had to wait, and then everybody had to vote.
That sounds tedious and irritating.
Yeah, anarchy was much quicker. I don't remember what it was, but it's just basically like, I cannot remember. Maybe this. They have.
There's a secret command to activate democracy. What is it called? Revolution?
Anyway, the point was basically people would like spam the chat. Like the chat was where you could put your input for what key you want to press, and you could talk and try to spread your ideas so other people would see it. But people just like spam the same thing over and over again. Do this. We need to do that. We need to do that. And yeah, it it was amusing to watch, like see all these dysfunctional things happening.
So can you watch? Have you watched like
you
a
can see,
video of this?
Actually, you know what? Let's. I actually watched it when it was live, but
5 days. Wait, did that say 5 days, 11 hours? Which mode was that? I just saw at the top of the. Oh, okay. Twitch plays Pokemon. 5 days, 13 hours.
This is just a screen. Yeah, I think that's the running time. So basically, you see down in this thing, down had the most votes, and followed by left, right. And so it depends on people's what their motives are, what they're trying to do. So it was pretty dysfunctional. I mean, even something as simple as catching a Pokemon or naming it was like incredibly hard. Anyway, you see a Flareon here because that's when they instituted democracy, because it was just anarchy mode for a while.
I'm sorry. That's so cool. A little microcosm to just put like everybody go in here and let's pretend this is a thing and let's just see what happens.
Eevee into Flareon was not possible with anarchy. Like they just could not do it. They needed to institute something to have more.
Those are Pokemon.
Anarchy was great for like getting simple things done quickly, but democracy is needed if you need to execute like a series of complicated steps. So why did we bring this up again? We're connecting it
politics.
To legislative.
Yeah, the way that we don't compromise.
Yeah.
Instead, we got the ball. Let's run our direction.
Yeah. So yeah, there's that. That was a really interesting social experiment. They did actually beat the game, all of them, Red, Crystal, and Emerald. Eventually, I think one of them had an incredibly long time though before they made it to the end. I don't remember which one.
So
yeah, this is a wiki kind of documenting some of that stuff.
Send me the link to that. I'll throw it in the chat for anybody watching this afterward or who's interested. Just come back. This will be in the not the chat. I'll throw it in the description box. Yeah. Where did I leave off?
I had a last thought. That
okay.
Back to when we were saying that how much a difference that.
If I could just interject the end of the point we just made. Tetrion's production says, this is why we have a republic. We would pick 3 to 9 people and they would make the choices. Because we don't actually have a democracy. Everybody thinks
Democratic
we do.
Republic?
Yeah. Because we elect people who represent our positions.
Yeah, democracy is mob rule.
Exactly. And exactly.
49% of the people could take away the rights of... Sorry, did I say 49? 51% of the people could take away the rights of the 49.
And the idea is those 3 to 9 people represent our goals, and then we can simply they can compromise on our behalf and come to a solution. Very, very good point. All right, that final thought you were talking about.
We mentioned that somebody mentioned like how much a difference that you can make by talking and reaching out to people. To reduce, potential incidents such as gun violence. The other, this was actually point 2 on my list, that a big part of gun violence is suicides, and
2/3, 2/3 of deaths by gun in the United States is suicide.
Yeah, and that's really sad. I'm not trying to diminish suicides, but I am saying that. I'm saying that even just a smile, just smiling at somebody could prevent a suicide. That's how much power we have. So,
positivity. Bennett said, "Let me just finish these." I appreciate that final thought. I don't know why it is. I have a hard time formulating final thoughts into succinct things. Very well done. Where did I leave off? Yes. Amor Pizza had said, I don't know if we are qualified to be telling people how to talk to idiots if we're still calling them idiots. Yes. Also tried it with Assault Rifles band to slow things down. Not a whit. Twig Pie agrees. True. We should work to fix the things we can and not hate at each other about the things we disagree on. I'm going to... Oh, jeez, no.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest.
I'm gonna screen cap that. Use it as our.
That's one of the biggest hindrances, is when we have like bottlenecks in communication where people are just like they can't communicate because each of them thinks the other is an idiot and they just will not. Remember the seven habits? One of them was seek first to understand, then to be understood.
I think so. I do not remember word for word. No.
People do not. Well, I mean, it's the concept, you know. You got to reach out and understand the other person, and if you do that, I mean, you know, if you both do that, then you're both reaching out to understand the other person. So both gets their points across, and maybe you can find a better path between the two. So.
I agree.
So yeah, I agree, Ben.
I think people still think we go on at 9 because our viewership doubled around 9 o'clock.
Oh.
We stream at 8. In case people don't know, we stream 8 o'clock. Yeah, around 9 o'clock we jumped up from 4 to 8. So
we need to make that 8 p.m. kind of like glowy or
yeah, I know.
booming.
I'm gonna make that more boomy and glowy. 8 p.m. I also need to put. You can set event notifications and say like this is an upcoming event, like a day or two in advance. So I need to start putting those out beforehand. So
Oh,
that
you
it's
can.
like
Is it
yeah.
like?
So it'll
Is
say
that for all the people who click on the little bell?
yes, they will get a notification saying so and so is going to be live in a day. You click on it and it's like we'll be live in this many hours. Click here to get a specific alert to remind you this event starts in 10 minutes.
How do they get it? Do they have to be on YouTube to get it?
If you have the if you have the YouTube app, if you're signed in, if you subscribe, if you get the alerts, when you see one of those and it pops up and it says they will be live eventually, click on the alert. You will get a second alert when they actually are live. Reminder. So I would recommend you do that because it's really nice to have you guys here. Wish you could have been here earlier, been part of the conversation. But as I say, if you're watching this after the fact, please do comment below the video. We do respond to all of those comments. I'm talking to you, Commissar Bear, who is in Germany and always watches this after the fact because of time zone differences. We are not actually in Germany.
Do we get many comments after the video?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, we've got like 2 in the last month, and one of them was Commissar Bear saying, wish I could catch you guys live. I think it was somebody else who actually said that, but it's a similar comment. So if you're here after the fact, comment below, let us know what you think, and we will respond, or we might even address it on the next show if it's a really, really good point. So make good points. You can be part of the show. But that being said,
especially citations for that
yes,
gun control debate.
Citate his thing.
Oh, it doesn't have to be mine. It could be any.
Yes,
point.
citate anything we do. That's a word, right? Citation.
Citate.
Maybe.
I think people would rather say make a citation, but I
No,
guess citate is
you would
technically
cite.
correct.
You would cite.
Cite.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
You citate your
But not
sources.
incite.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much for being with us this week. Next week, we will, once again, be here at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And starting sometime next week, I will be streaming music on my old channel. It is linked in the description. Go subscribe. There'll be more updates on when that's going to be happening and what's going to be happening. It's going to be a lot of fun. I hope I will see you guys there, and we will see you guys next week.
Bye.